Here begins the great journey westward.
The Wild West was one of the chaotic yet revolutionary time periods that was the foundation of our nation today. The Louisiana Purchase, which stretched from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains and from Canada to New Orleans, doubled the size of America and created a whole new land for people to inhabit and explore. The Wild West is a story of law, order, and the frontier, but most importantly, independence and opportunity. We will bring you a better understanding of what the Wild West was and the people that lived, died, and thrived in it.
I guess this is my new home now. I left my family and friends behind in Virginia. I can't wait to start my new life here.
In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson purchased the territory of Louisiana from the French government for $15 million. This opened up the West to American citizens, and a large number of Americans would travel across the plains to reach the West. These settlers were called pioneers. They believed in manifest destiny, which they thought was their duty to settle and spread across Western North America in order to spread their people and American ideals. It was a difficult and dangerous journey, hard on animals and people alike. Pioneers saw the natives as a threat, especially as settlers began to clear and farm the Great Plains. Although the settlers saw the natives as threats, they had killed more natives than the amount of white settlers had been killed by the native tribesmen. The tribes usually tolerated the settlers, and there was generally peace on the trail, but some interactions between settlers and natives ended in violence.
After the Homestead Act was passed in 1862, my family decided to leave New York and join a wagon train to Oregon, where we started a new farm.
They claimed 160 acres of free land that natives used to live on. We are heading over there to join them now.
When we get to Oregon, we'll have to build our own home, farm our own food, make our own medicine, and get our own necessities. Honestly, I'm kind of excited for this independence.
The men did the hard labor, such as hunting, farming, trapping, and carpentry, while women would help with the farm work and tended to the children. Eventually, as conditions improved, so did diet, clothing, and the availability of other essentials.
Hurry back, we got 10 more miles before dusk.
The pioneer way of life fostered values of independence and self-reliance that were reinforced by religion and a strong sense of community. These virtues were crucial if one wanted to thrive during the settling of the West, and these settlers would become the foundation of the archetypal Wild West.
Hello, Frederick Jackson Turner. Would you like to tell me a little bit more about your thesis on the American frontier?
Of course. The westward march of the American pioneer from the Atlantic to the Pacific coast is what distinguishes Americans from Europeans. This is what gives the Americans their individual, energetic, and optimistic character.
That statement is very patriotic and attractive from pioneers. But I question whether this dutiful westward march is just a process of colonization.
The American pioneer undergoes an experience of rebirth, where he returns to primitivism. He is wiped clean of inherited civilization back to a blank slate. The American frontier strips off these garments of civilization and arrays him in a wilderness shirt and moccasin.
But the Western past is not just a one-dimensional story of the white man parting with his old culture to inherit a new one. Western expansion and inheriting a new culture does not wipe blank the slate of an individual. And Western expansion is the story of ethnic and racial diversity. I must say that your thesis only illustrates the perspective of the Anglo-American, and I agree with most historians that Turner is still on the burner.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
86 years ago, our founding fathers created a country of freedom and independence. I am your president, Abraham Lincoln, and would like to announce a great opportunity for each and every one of you American citizens. On May 20, 1862, I signed the Homestead Act, which ensures that each and every one of you American citizens are insured 160 acres of land in the New West, thereby extending our founding fathers' vision. This amazing opportunity is available for each and every one of you citizens, men, women, and immigrants alike. There are many things you can do with this land, such as building a ranch, starting a family farm. The possibilities are endless. Just file an application to prove that you have improved and developed the land, and it's yours forever. Look at all this land! This could be yours!
Feel free to stay as long as you like, partner. Hey, you shut up. We're on your journey right here, you hear? Take it easy. Well, since we're all here, why don't we share our stories?
Sure, let me go first. My name is Li Wei. In 1850, the Taipei Rebellion, a civil war, started, and my family was massacred. I didn't want to be mixed, so I left for America, the land of opportunity. By the time I was 15, the American Civil War had ended. I was sent to work and build the Transcontinental Railroad. The work was grueling, but it was good pay for an immigrant like me. However, the white people had higher wages.
Do we seriously have to shovel this much rock? 20 pounds is killing my back.
Get back to work. May as well do 25 pounds while you're at it.
You should give us better clothing. If an avalanche or storm hits us, we're pretty much dead.
Shut up. Talk back to me one more time and I'll send you back to where you came from.
In 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad was finished. Me and the other Chinese immigrants went looking for other jobs. Eventually, I found my way to becoming a fur trapper. We went to the Rocky Mountains and went there to look for fur. Mainly I hunted beavers, but soon all the beavers were killed off, so I had to go looking for other jobs. Hi, here are some pelts. Winter is coming soon, so I won't be able to catch game anytime soon.
All good, Mr. Wei. Have a good season.
Thanks.
Trappers, also known as mountain men, lived in the mountains to trade furs and skins of beaver and other wild animals with Native Americans, and eventually adopted some of the tribe's cultural ways of life. After the beavers had been killed off in Europe, many Europeans traveled to the hills of the frontier to trap beaver pelts, which were an extremely valuable commodity. The mountain men lived off the land, oftentimes living by themselves or in small groups. They ate whatever was available to them, with berries and meat being their main food source, and would often trade their furs and meat for additional supplies. They were usually the first settlers who interacted with natives when an area was colonized.
Somehow I became a miner, another labor-heavy job. The working conditions were poor, and I was always afraid that I would get into some freak accident.
You're not allowed to smoke in here.
Who cares anyway? The supervisor isn't even here. Why do you care? Just give me a break.
Just saying, there's a lot of flammable stuff here. I don't want to get blown up today. And smoking combined with the fumes is probably not good for you.
Yeah, I guess you're right, but we don't last long in these mines anyway.
Hey, get back to work.
The mines were incredibly dangerous and full of hot air that was not only flammable, but full of dust that would cause a health effect called black lung if inhaled. However, this didn't stop miners from participating in rushes, where workers would travel from mine to mine and boomtown to boomtown, looking for which had the most gold.
After the coal went dry, I decided to pack up my supplies and head to another boomtown in New Mexico, which is where I'm headed now. Cowboy, I think you should go next.
Well, alrighty then. My name is Charles Easton. I make my living herding cattle across the West. I first came to the West to escape the turmoil of the Civil War back in 1866. I fought for the Union under General Grant. I first came to the West because I yearned for that same excitement that I felt when I was a soldier.
Damn, you sound like you got one hell of a story.
Well, being a rancher is an honest living, at least more honest than most.
Hey, you hear me, boy?
The cattle industry was one of the most important parts of the growing West. It helped to develop and grow towns, civilizing the land, as settlers would say. Ranchers would divide land amongst themselves, often letting cattle roam free range on massive ranches. Sometimes this would lead to disagreements on land and cattle ownership, which could lead to range wars, which were conflicts fought by families and ranches over the open range that cattle would graze on. Cattle were incredibly valuable in the West. Cowboys were in charge of watching over and herding these cattle, and often did it on horseback. The cowboys of the frontier descended from the vaqueros, Mexican cowboys who worked and lived on the land when Spain and Mexico owned the land in the early to mid-19th century. Vaqueros passed on many traditions to American cowboys, who eventually replaced them as the United States had annexed the land. Cowboys would participate in long drives where they would transport dozens or hundreds of cattle across the plains to other ranches or towns for sale, trading, or slaughter. The open range left the cattle and the cowboys vulnerable and in danger of cattle rustlers who would attempt or successfully steal cattle.
I had just gotten into the cattle business, seeing as all the buffalo had been killed off by all the white settlers who came before me. I had just finished a long trek across the Chihuahuan Desert.
Ah, finally, Amarillo. My legs are burning.
What can I get you, sir?
Anything you got?
Yeah, 1 cup of shine coming right up.
Do you know a place where I can get my cattle fed and getting some water around here? They gotta be in Dodge City by next week.
Yeah, there's a place called Longfellow, like 5 miles east. You can stay the night there as well.
Much obliged.
Jesus Christ! How long has this trail been? The man at the saloon had to have been lying. Oh, thank God! A person! Madam, over here!
Yes?
Do you know how I can get to the Longfellow Ranch from here?
Oh, it's just on the trail down there. But watch out for cattle rustlers. They've been very active in the area lately.
Thank you so much.
What a cute cow you have.
Easy there.
Holy cow, is that a bandit? Oh, my arm!
My arm! My arm! My arm! My arm! My arm! Hey, get back here! Stealing cattle is a capital offense! Now run off, boy. I don't want to see your face around here again. Currently, I'm driving my cattle back from Dodge City, Kansas, back to my ranch.
Jesus, that's almost as dangerous as mining.
Being on the open plain sure is dangerous, but damn, it sure is lucrative.
Why don't you tell us about your time in the war?
Before my time in the Civil War, I was in the Indian Wars. I regret what I did. We treated the Indians with such brutality and violence. We kicked them off their own land. After I got called on again for the Civil War, I got a discharge. I wanted to live an honest life. I just couldn't do it anymore. You know, the killing.
The series of conflicts in the western United States between the natives, American settlers, and the United States Army are generally known as the American Indian Wars. Many of these conflicts occurred and during after the Civil War until the closing of the frontier in about 1890, but went past the century.
The English, French, Spanish, and U.S. Army, as well as, of course, the indigenous people, were involved in these conflicts. The conflicts resulted with large Native American population loss, as well as the relocation of Native American survivors onto reservations.
What was the main reason the natives were defeated so quickly?
Before the army and settlers came to the plains in 1883, over the course of the past 11 years, the buffalo population had decreased from 25 million to just 100 buffalo. If the Native Americans had not complied with the government's relocation, then the Native Americans would not be able to support themselves with food and shelter. So the government came in and seized all the land that the Native Americans used to occupy.
Often the Army was praised for these wars, as 20 soldiers received the Medal of Honor at Wounded Knee, which was one of the bloodiest massacres in U.S. history and was committed against unarmed men, women, and children of the Lakota Sioux tribe. Over time, these wars have been condemned and viewed as atrocities, and the United States government has attempted to pay reparations to the tribes that were affected.
Just because the West is a place of opportunity doesn't mean people don't do horrible things with that opportunity. Anyways, now it's your turn to tell your story, lawman.
Alrighty. Well, my name's Victor Copeland. I'm a U.S. Marshal, and I've been tracking Jake Clyde across the country for 3 months now. He'd been committing heinous crimes in northern New Mexico and southern Colorado, such as robbing banks or robbing stagecoaches with him and his gang.
Hi, welcome in. What can I get aside for you today?
This is a robbery. Give me everything you have.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'd heard good old Mr. Clyde here had split from his gang and was in Cimarron, New Mexico. So I head down south to go and catch him. Hey, you. I'm Marshal Copeland, and I'm looking for a man by the name of Jake Clyde. You seen him around these parts?
He's over in that there saloon there, but you ain't hear that from me.
Thank you very much, sir.
Saloons were a type of bar that were particular to the Old West. They were present all throughout the territories, often popping up in booming towns with lots of workers who needed a place to rest and relax after a long day of work. They were hotspots of gambling, drinking, and a commonplace in the community, but were often dangerous, as a drunken brawl over gambling and disagreements were not uncommon.
Hi, what can I get for you?
I'll have one whiskey, please.
Coming right up.
Have you seen any suspicious folk around here?
Well, there's one fellow who ain't loco. He's sitting at that table over yonder. He's been stirring up trouble all afternoon, and he came in here in quite a hurry too. You seem like the bounty hunting type, so I bet that's your man. Just don't make it messy.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Hey, you just cheated. You can't have just won again.
I did no such thing. You just had too much to drink.
Wait right there, Mr. Clyde. I'm U.S. Marshal Victor Copeland, and I'm here to take you into arrest.
Who let this clown in here? I didn't think there was law for miles.
You've been sorely mistaken. I'm here to take you up to Denver where you'll be hanged for your crimes.
Hey, no guns allowed in here. Take it outside.
Easy there, Copeland.
You can come with me peacefully, Clyde, or this can get ugly.
I've killed dozens of men like you, Copeland. I'll be walking back into that saloon without a scratch. Just watch me.
What the hell was that? Why couldn't you just kill me like a real man?
You're worth more to the judge, alive than dead.
I have some very powerful friends south of the border. You'll regret this.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Come with me nicely or I'll put another bullet in you.
The dangers of the Old West were accentuated by the bandits and the outlaws of the day. Because of its disconnection from the rest of the country and its remoteness, the frontier was full of violence, with citizens often having to fight for themselves. Bounty hunters helped hunt down outlaws, and to attract these bounty hunters, the lawmen used wanted posters, which promised a handsome reward for a fugitive captured dead or alive. Famous outlaws were worth huge amounts. Jesse James, for example, was worth $5,000, which was a considerable sum for the time.
Were lawmen and bounty hunters the only people responsible for law enforcement along the West?
Aside from the occasional Western sheriff and marshal, there were various law enforcement agencies dotted around the West, such as the Texas Rangers and the Pinkerton Detective Agencies. These organizations were instrumental in not only keeping the peace, but also protecting locals from native and Mexican threats at the border.
Who were some of the most well-known outlaws of the Wild West?
Well, the most infamous outlaw of the Wild West was Billy the Kid, but there was also outlaws like Sam Bass and the James Gang and Butch Cassidy, and they were kept at bay by lawmen such as Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday.
And how would settlers normally react to these bandits?
Well, when outlaw gangs were near, towns would usually create a posse to drive them out or capture them. And in reaction to this, outlaws would take advantage of the open range and would often hide in remote passes and badlands.
As the West became more civilized, marshals and sheriffs were hired to protect areas from outlaws, but it often did not stop criminals from committing crimes such as stealing cattle, murder, and thievery. There were lower-level crimes as well, such as cutting down trees on federal land and selling unauthorized alcohol. As towns became more populated and law and order became more established, local governments banned the carrying of guns, which sharply reduced crime. Although crime and outlawness was not as prevalent as it is portrayed in films, it was considerably more commonplace than the east of the country at the time. Saloons and towns on the frontier were violent, but the violent image that is common today was created by Hollywood, and there was more order in the towns than in the rural areas.
So anyway, that's my story. Now all I gotta do is bring this here criminal to the courts for them to decide his fate. Even though the frontier is free and open, that the law will always catch up to them eventually.
You know, that's just what I love about the frontier. It's wide and open and you can do what you please, but there's a certain order to it.
I agree. The freedom of the West has given me much opportunity. I love America, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, I agree, but I really gotta be going now. I gotta get my cattle back to my ranch in Arizona.
I gotta get this man to Denver by Wednesday, so I'll be off too.
Good luck on your travels.
And now another word from our sponsor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Arizona Territory, I'm here to announce Schultz Gunsmith, the first gunsmith in all of Mesa, Arizona.
Hi, I need a gun to protect myself from bandits who might try and rob my farm.
Here's a Colt Army, a very reliable sidearm. This is the most common gun in all of the West.
I'm a bounty hunter, so I need a trusty gun that I can use to hunt criminals.
If you're a bounty hunter, you're gonna want this Winchester rifle. High power to shoot targets from far away, and it's pretty accurate up close too. Happy shooting, and make sure to come by Schultz Gun Store on February 10th, 1884 for our grand opening.
Hi, it's so empty. What's going on here?
Oh, new railroads bypass the cities, and no one passes through anymore. It's like a ghost town. What's your name, partner?
Well, after a mining incident killed all of my fellow coworkers, I decided to leave. I thought that this lifestyle didn't suit me, so I've headed over to San Francisco right now. Oh, by the way, I'm Lee Wei.
As more people came flocking to the West in pursuit of fortune and opportunity, the land became more civilized. Territories became states, towns became cities, and the age of cowboys and outlaws was declining. The Census Bureau officially closed the frontier in 1890, as all the land in the frontier had been claimed by citizens and the government. The invention of barbed wire finally was able to set definitive boundaries of land, and by the 1900s, the railroads and other technological advancements were finally able to support large populations. The boom towns declined as resources were depleted, and many flocked to the cities. The age of the frontier was over, and a new age of American progression had started after the Second Industrial Revolution was coming to an end.
With people from all over the country and the world coming to explore this new land, it became to symbolize the American identity, rough and rugged individualism willing to meet any challenge. The land was full of mystery and danger, but in spite of these enormous human costs, the overwhelming majority of Americans saw Western expansion as a major opportunity with their ideas of manifest destiny. To them, access to Western lands offered prosperity and independence to anyone willing to meet the hardships of frontier life. It wasn't only white Americans who colonized the West, as it was a melting pot of cultures, from Chinese Americans to Mexican vaqueros and European trappers. However, Western colonialism did not come at a price, and it persecuted many native cultures, and that's a shame that America will have to live with forever. As the frontier passed into history, the myths and legends of the West took a firm hold in foreigners and Americans alike. And with the exploration of space and the digital world, the ideas of the Wild West are still very much prevalent today. The legends, historical events, and folklore of the American frontier have embedded themselves into American states' culture so much that the Old West, and the Western genre of media specifically, has become one of the defining periods of American national identity and became known as the greatest times of human expansion and opportunity in American history.
Okay, safe travels, Lee, and I hope for your success for the West.
Thanks, partner. Here begins the great journey westward.
Okay. He's the fastest gun in the West.
He's the guy who's the talk of the town with the restless guy. Don't you bother to fool him around. Keeps the varmints on the run, boy. Keeps the varmints on the run. You may think he's a sleepy type guy. Always takes his time.
Oh, easy on that. Restart it.
I know you'll be changing your mind when you've seen him use a gun, boy. When you've seen him use a gun.
They're stealing cattle as a capital offense.
He's the talk of the West. Always cool.
Designers, permanent survival training.
He keeps
What you do?
Have embedded themselves into American states culture so much. Wait, why did I
Oh, yeah, sure.
to pull him around. When you've seen him, you're so gone, boy. When you've seen him, you're so gone.